Bijan. Pull your damn pants up, man, and quake in fear, for I am the Phantom Reviewer.
Yeah, dude, I know who you are. I love your videos. They're fantastic. But, how did you get into my studio?
I'm a spirit. I can go anywhere. I've come to cure my soul. I've suffered so much pain. I've had too many disappointments. My true love, Christine, chose to be blown to smithereens rather than live with me. And then I meet Maria Cornetto, who's Christine's reincarnation, and I think I'm just getting somewhere with her. But she takes one look at my face and, well, you can guess how that turned out. But worse still, I spent years tracking down every version of Phantom ever made, even super rare ones like Il Mostro dell'Opera and El Fantasma dell'Operetta, and these movies sound great on paper, but when it comes down to it, they just suck ass. And now the final insult. I got so excited to hear about the Angel of Music fan project. You know, looking at the pictures, they look great. It was supposed to be a LaRue Faithful version. Look at that cool mask they've got there. It's black, and Christine's a blonde, and they just screwed it up by turning it into a stupid modern-day Da Vinci Code knockoff. Well, just look at it! No! You've seen my review. So, that's why I'm here. I am here because I can't suffer the disappointment of another bad Phantom film. Now, your fan film looks promising. It looks LaRue Faithful, but so did Angel of Music. So I'm gonna make a deal with you. I'll sit down and watch your little fan film, and if it's good, you can live. But if it turns out to be stinking garbage like the rest, then I will kill you.
Look, dude, just hold the phone. I don't think this is entirely fair. I mean, I am a film student. I was only 19 when we actually made the movie. So, you know, say what you need to say. I think you need to judge it for what it is.
I know. And I am going to be fair to you. You know, you're a young director. You've done this on a low budget. But a bad film is a bad film. So this better be good. Your life depends on it, sucker.
Beneath the opera house, he's always there. He watches Phantom films down in his lair. And though he's too ugly to e'er get laid, the Phantom Reviewer will watch each version made.
Well, now, we're not off to a good start here, are we? What's this about apologising for the bad lip sync? You can't just have shoddy lip sync and say it was an artistic choice. You could have gone back and fixed that stuff. I mean, most of it's okay, but there's got a lot to see. I mean, look at this scene. This is terrible lip sync. Yeah, I really don't think you should draw attention to it, you know. Imagine if the 2004 movie did that. It might have had something like this.
Oh, come on, man. The movie hasn't even started yet and you're already complaining. Just be patient and give it a chance.
I know, I shouldn't nitpick, but come on, this is like the first frame of the movie and already there's something to be irritated about. Does not bode well, does it, Ryan? And this opening montage, what's going on with this? I mean, first of all, how stock is this classical music? This has been used in everything. The music's out of place, has no atmosphere. It just goes on for too long. I mean, I guess it's kind of neat that you've done it in this sort of silent movie style, but with colour. You know, I've never seen that before, but really? And it goes on for too long. It's just like 5 minutes of this. Tell me the whole movie's not like this, right?
You're reviewing the world premiere cut. Okay, this doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
Right now we're coming out with the definitive cut. So they're technically two different versions of the movie, but, you know, they're both pretty good, so continue.
But now we get into the movie proper. Now this is more like it. Now, let me get this right. You have never read Susan Kay's Phantom at all, have you?
I have actually never read Susan Kay. I've always been kind of curious. I've always wanted to read the Susan Kay Phantom book just because it is pretty well regarded. But when I was making this movie, to me, the LaRue novel was the ultimate Bible. You know, we were basing it directly on that, and I wanted to give my own interpretation, my own spin. So even though I do reference a lot of the Phantom of the Opera movies, to me, the LaRue book is the definitive literary source of the Phantom, and I didn't really want to seep into any fan fiction. I mean, with all due respect to Susan Kay, I'd definitely like to look at it at some point. But no, I mean, I probably should put a disclaimer. Any resemblance between this and Susan Kay is entirely coincidental.
So that book is not influencing this movie, but I have to say, watching it, you can see how some people might think that. You've got some scenes with Erik as a child, presumably running away from the gypsy carnival. I really like his creepy little Elephant Man-style sack hood thing he's got over his face as well. Kind of reminds me of the 2004 version. But, you know, in a good way. That was one of the few creepy images out of that movie. You know, these little flashbacks of his childhood crop up now and again, and they're quite effective for the most part. The film proper kicks off rather like the first chapter of the LaRue novel, Is It a Ghost?, where you've got Joseph Bouquet freaking out all the ballerinas and stuff.
It's a nasty, pale yellow.
Perhaps he drinks too much.
And his nose, it's not even worth talking about. You can't even see it from the side. And a person without a nose, it's a nasty sight to behold.
Like a day, mate. Yeah, Joseph Bouquet's got a rather strong Australian accent, but it's conceivable that an Australian might have found work in turn-of-the-century Paris.
You're full of shit, Bouquet.
The poor fellow must have felt a terrible pain right before the acid ate through his face. So he goes, and he jumps into the Seine River. To this day, no body has ever been found.
Last week you said he was killed by the comet.
How he died's not important, monsieur.
In fact, that's one of the things that does stand out in this movie, that most people don't really try to do some sort of fake Pepe Le Pew French accent, which is fine. I mean, if you can't do the French accent well, don't bother. Miranda Richardson, take note.
This is Matthew Brettham as Joseph Bouquet, and I know he's gotten a little bit of flack for his accent, or his Australian accent, but the idea was that we wanted most of the actors in the film to have a British accent just because you usually associate the British dialect or the English dialect with period piece films. But then we thought about it for a while, and I thought, well, hey, I mean, the movie's set in Paris. I mean, they wouldn't be speaking English anyway. So if we could have a mixture of American accents and English accents and kind of, you know, whatever suited each character best, we just rolled with it. I mean, you look at Frankenstein, you look at any of the old Universal horror films, or even the Hammer horror films. There's a movie called Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. The film is set in Spain, yet everyone speaks with a British accent, and you have a lot of people speaking in a Cockney accent, but it never really bothered me because I knew it was being translated.
But everyone seems to have this really modernistic American twang that can get a bit annoying.
They obviously have enough faith in me to give me this lovely dressing room.
Yeah, which is the size of Carlotta's armoire.
Can't you be happy for me?
Sweetie, I didn't mean anything, if that's what you mean.
That's why I pray every night for him to help me.
Who? Prince Charming?
The angel.
Cute nickname. What's he look like?
There's many elements of this film that remind me of the 1943 version. The design of the Phantom looks very 1943 with his hat and mask, and, you know, I mean, just look at some of the lighting in these scenes, and you get a lot of shots of him running through the corridors that obviously take their influence from the Claude Rains movie, and even some of the dialogue's similar at times.
Madame was magnificent tonight. I was good, wasn't I?
You were glorious, Signora.
You're paid to assist me, not to flatter me. But yes, I was.
We can't go back there. Ever. It was I who made the chandelier fall.
You see, I made the chandelier fall.
Well, when we made Erik, we definitely wanted to bring something fresh to the story. We didn't want to just copy what had already been done. But at the same time, the Phantom of the Opera has such a rich history. We really did want to go back and pay respect to the original novel, of course, and of course, the awesome film versions that came before. So we definitely put some nods to Lon Chaney in the 1925 film, of course, to Claude Rains in the 1943 version, and a couple of the other ones. The actual overall style was directly inspired by the films of Hammer. And for those of you guys who may not know, Hammer Films was this brilliant British studio, in the 1950s, 60s,
Yes,
and
yes,
70s.
I've heard of Hammer
He did all these awesome reimaginings of the classic Universal horror movies. They did Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula,
I am
The
aware
Mummy.
of their work.
And these were
film
beautifully,
historian,
these were low-budget films, but they had beautifully lush production design. I mean, the costumes, the vibrant color photography, the sets, and I mean, we really wanted to bring some of that style to our film. So, if you are a horror fan, I mean, even if you're a fan of the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, we do have a few nods to that. So, if you know your Phantom history, you will have fun watching this movie. You'll be able to pick out a few nods and references.
This film is really cool to look at. It's stylistic, the sets are great for low budget, and to say this was filmed on a relatively low budget, you really can't tell. It looks a hell of a lot better than Angel of Music. I mean, in that movie there was some terrible green screening and virtual sets used that looked fake as hell, but in this movie there's not a green screen in sight. Everything was done on real sets, and it really shows. The lighting's excellent, a little overdone in some places, but come on, this is a cheesy horror film homage at heart. The costumes seem period appropriate and look pretty expensive. I really like the design of Erik, well, certainly in some shots. I mean, this mask here is freaking awesome, just look at it. Although in other bits he's not quite as convincing. He's got this sort of William Shatner Halloween mask on in some of the shots. This has got to be the most awful wig I've seen since Julian Sands. There's some really creative camera angles, and the murder scenes are badass.
Phantom of the Opera is one of those great characters where he's like Dracula, or, you know, the Wolfman, basically any of these classic monsters, vampires and werewolves, where they're not scary anymore. Unfortunately, pop culture sort of watered them down, whereas, like, you know, Dracula's not scary anymore, he's sexy.
Sparkles!
The Wolfman isn't scary anymore, he's a buff Hispanic dude without a shirt. So, I really wanted to go back to the original novel, to the original idea of the Phantom as this very repulsive, but very sympathetic, tragic figure.
That's what I really like about this. This is going back to basics. This is more the Erik of the book. He's not a romantic hero. He's a yellow-skinned, noseless, psychopathic maniac with a serious body odor problem. He smells of death. He's not attractive to anyone unless you yourself are a bit disturbed. If you were to show this to your typical Gerard Butler fangirl, I think they'd be looking for the vomit bucket.
The Joel Shumacher movie, I mean, I don't really know what more can be said about the film. I think it's a beautifully well done movie. It's certainly a handsome production, you know, fantastic scenery. Joel certainly has an eye for spectacle, and I totally respect him for that. When Joel Shumacher made that film, he sort of shifted the message towards being about a young girl's sexual awakening, which of course has nothing to do with the original novel. So if I can understand his reasoning for making Erik more sexy, getting a good-looking guy like Gerard Butler, having the billowy open white shirts with the little mask and the little rash, and, you know, that's all cool. I mean, I certainly understand the appeal of that, and I respect that, but that wasn't my Phantom of the Opera. You know, I grew up on Lon Chaney, on Claude Rains, Robert Englund, and of course the original LaRue novel, so I wanted to go back to the roots and really make him scary again. And the thing is, even in the opening scenes, when you see the Phantom talking to Christine behind the mirror, he still has to try to communicate with her, and obviously that'd be difficult with the full black mask. So I thought, well, you know what, let's do the cool half mask, you know, that Claude Rains wore, because I think that, to me, that's the quintessential Phantom of the Opera mask. I definitely wanted to pay some respect to that. But I thought, you know what, it'd be cool, like, why not make Erik scary even with the mask on? So you see him, he has this really nasty skin condition, these rotting teeth, and that goes back to the original novel, because of course LaRue describes Erik as having, you know, leprous yellow skin, he has no nose, Lon Chaney gave him rotted teeth, so I thought, well, hey, you know, he can still have those characteristics, so let's show them off even with the mask on.
We also get a good insight into Erik's frame of mind. The whole story is told from his perspective and narrated by him as well.
My name is Erik, and this is my home. As a patron of all the grand arts, I can hardly think of a more suitable one. Here I am free to compose and perform uninterrupted, and of course the beautiful music flows from my theatre above. After every show is a nightly trip to the kitchen. For a ghost, not even a vengeful one can live on rats and sewer water alone.
But I know a man who can. I really like how you characterised him, actually. He's obviously crazy, but at times he can be a gentleman, and at other times he's just an absolute cold-blooded killer. He's really badass again, especially in the murder scenes. I'm sure I'm not spoiling anything by saying that Joseph Bouquet dies horribly, but there are other scenes that I just can't show you because they're so surprising. There's one kill that Erik does, and it just came from freaking nowhere, and I was just blown away by how badass that scene was and how casual Erik just totally kills this guy. I really want to show it to you, but I don't want to spoil the surprise because it surprised the hell out of me, and that doesn't happen very often when I'm watching a Phantom movie. Normally they're very formulaic and you know which characters are going to live and die, but this has some nice surprises in. Okay, actually, I'll give you one spoiler. Turn away now if you don't want to watch. Yeah, Carlotta gets it in this one.
Who's there? Come out of there!
Good morning, Signora Carlotta.
Who are you? And why are you in my room?
Why am I glowing green?
Answer me, or I'll scream. The police are swarming this place.
I'm afraid you've committed far greater crimes against music than what I did last night.
What about Christine? You can't have a good Phantom movie without a good Christine. And this one, to be fair, it's pretty good.
Now, Autumn Young's Christine, I mean, as you can see, I think she did a really terrific job. She's a gorgeous actress. She really brought a vulnerability to Christine, but she wasn't entirely stupid either, or at least as stupid as Christine is usually portrayed. So we were really happy with her performance.
I wasn't expecting much after the horrors of Lisa J. Madder in the last one. This Christine is very good. She's not blonde, but yeah, well, you can't have everything.
Oh, well, she's a brunette. Christine is Swedish in the novel. She has blonde hair and blue eyes. Your Christine doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. That's an insult to the original novel. My logic is that even going back to Mary Philbin, to the 1925 film, Sarah Brightman in the original musical, Heather Sears in the Hammer version, and almost every single Christine of stage and film has been a brunette. And we did try dyeing Autumn's hair, putting on a wig. It just didn't feel as right as it should have, so we pretty much left her as is. I think she looks great in the role, and I really can't complain about that.
I'd rather take good acting over an accurate accent any day. I really like the scene where Meg and Christine are discussing the old childhood stories of the Angel of Music, and the Phantom is eavesdropping. Again, it does remind me of Susan Kay.
He would always promise me, when he was in heaven, he would never really leave me, and that he would send the Angel of Music to help me.
Of course.
No one ever sees the angel, but he is heard by those who are meant to hear him. He often comes when they least expect him, and suddenly their ears perceive a divine voice which they remember all their lives. I care of my father and for helping me.
I love the creepy vibe you get when the Phantom is watching Christine pray.
I also pray that you would send me the Angel of Music to help. Forgive me. It is whatever your will decides. Amen.
Christine?
Meg? Is that you?
Really? Meg, did you take hormone pills? See where the Phantom first starts talking to her. It's really well done. It reminds me a little bit of the Herbert Lom version.
Christine. Have no fear, child. Do you not know my voice?
Perhaps the police will know it better. Where are you?
I'm afraid there's very little they can do against an angel.
It can't be.
Indeed. I am the voice that will make you a truly great singer, but you must put your faith only in me.
Why now, Angel of Music?
Because you are on the verge of success and your talent is almost ready to bloom. I will help
I
you. Your father loves you so much, Christine. He has sent me from heaven to protect you from all the evils that would deny you of your music.
It must be true.
We shall begin immediately. Wait and see, Christine. Together, we shall astonish Paris.
We get to see a little bit of the Phantom and Christine's early relationship and how he teaches her to sing. Most of it's done through the aid of a montage.
We're gonna need a montage. Ooh, it takes a montage. Show like things happening at once. Remind everyone of what's going on.
In fact, it reminds me of the Robert Englund version where you've got this sort of overlay over the top of Christine. Nice touch. Now, a lot of movie versions bring the Faust parallel in really strong, but this one's different. This doesn't even mention Faust. Instead, this one really goes back to basics, and plainly shows the Beauty and the Beast parallels, even down to Erik sitting in his lair looking through an old dusty book of La Belle et la Bête. I love the creepy organ music in this scene. So, Phantom, brilliant. Christine, not bad at all. Let's talk about Raoul.
Good evening, mademoiselle.
Oh my lordy.